Hey guys, this is Lucas with Better Coding Academy, and in this video we are going to be continuing our review of the React to-do filterable project. So now it's obviously inside React to-do refactored here, but it's still the same project here that we're looking at. So now let's go through the components directory, and I have a few things here that I kind of want to talk about in terms of the directory names and in terms of how it's all put together. So I don't know if you can notice this, but out of these 6 directory names, auth, layouts, pages, routing, to-dos, and utils, there is one that is named kind of differently from the others. So the one I'm talking about in particular is actually to-dos. And the reason I say this is because auth, layouts, pages, routing, and utils are all grouped together based on their utility or based on their functionality within the code. But the to-dos is directly grouped around a feature. So it's actually grouped around the use of to-dos here. So I'm not a big fan of this because it makes it very complicated, because let's just say, for example, we had a page that had to do with to-dos. Then does it belong inside the pages directory or does it belong inside to-dos? And it starts to become incredibly complicated. So the way I actually like to do it is I prefer to nest all of my components where they are being used, and I'm going to demonstrate how that works given the existing layout over here. We might have to kind of complicate things a little, but I do like the way it's put together. So we've got this over here with home, about, add to do, edit to do, register, and login. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a directory inside the components, and I'm going to call this one home. And I'm going to actually right click new file and do home/home.js. So this will automatically create a home directory for me and create a home.js inside of here. So then inside of pages where it comes from, I'm going to copy this and paste it inside of here. Don't worry about the imports, I can fix that up later. And then I'm going to write new file index.js. And the purpose of this index.js is just to import and export it like so. And the reason for that is because now we have a home directory for our component, and inside of there, we can actually store more than just the one component file, because you see here we have just the home.js, which means if we had some additional stuff relating to home, it makes it very difficult to include it inside the one file as it just gets longer and longer. But now that we have a directory, we kind of have that flexibility, which is really nice to have. So what we're going to do now is we are going to include this new home component inside of app.js. And to do that, it's actually really simple. You just need to write /components/home like this instead of pages. And we're actually going to move this one up here because that's alphabetical order, not taking into account casing. So now we have the home component here. Let's just keep going with the pages. So we've got home. We've also got about. So I'm going to create a new component here, call this one about. And I'm actually going to explain a bit more of how this layout actually works. So for the time being, if you think this looks kind of weird, before you jump into it and start leaving comments and explaining and all of that, maybe let me just go through and explain my layout a little bit better before you can make your own decision here. So I have an about.js file, and then I create a new file here. Once again, index.js, call this one about. So I'm just going to do this real quick for the other ones as well. So this one here becomes about like so. This one goes up there. We get rid of that one there. And then we've got add to do. Add to do and edit to do both belong out here as well. So I'm going to grab that. Well, actually do add to do like that. And then also do an index.js. Add to do like that. And then inside of add to do.js, we are going to put this file here. And now we are going to do edit to do as well. So actually, let's create the index.js inside of there first. And we're just going to do boiler index like so. So that's just the snippet I have set up. And we're going to copy and edit to do like so. So now we have these ones here. Let's just finish updating them inside of here so we can get rid of these two. Add to do and edit to do. And we can add them here. Cool. Okay, so now edit to do belongs down here. So now we have those ones there. Register and login as well. These two are inside the auth directory. And this is kind of, I guess, my critique of the original layout is when you have something that's both relating to authentication and also is a page, where do you put it, right? And how do you deal with it? Which is why I don't really like that kind of layout. And I think my layout that I'm showing here kind of solves that problem. And maybe you can give your opinion on that in the comments below, or however you want to let me know. So we're going to grab this login.js and we're going to paste it in here. One thing I've noticed is ts no check, which relates to TypeScript, but this file has a .js extension and it has no types. So I'm really not too sure what's going on there. Anyways, so inside of here, we're going to put login like so. we're going to grab register, and we're going to create a new one as well. So register index.js, and we're going to write register like that. And inside of there, we're going to paste in register.js. So now let's just close up a few of these so it's a little bit cleaner, and then we can continue to refactor as we go along. So if I can figure out, this goes there, I accidentally moved that in. And so now with these two, we get rid of the word auth. That goes there, and that goes right there. Cool. Okay, so let's just check first of all and make sure that it is still working. I do think it has broken, although maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, great. That's awesome. So now let's have a look at our components here. We've got about, we've got add to do, edit to do, we've got login, we've got register, and then we have all these other ones which are kind of left over and all of that. Okay, so now we need to think about how we are going to put these ones away. Because we moved everything else kind of into like about, add to do, edit to do, all of that like that. So now we need to deal with navbar and today notification. And the way I usually do that is I either have a shared directory inside of components. So I like to just have usually like shared like so. And all of the components inside of here are ones that are used by multiple pages or that are kind of generic and they're not really related to a specific component. So that is where something like today notification or navbar would probably go. And that's where I'll put it here. So I might do like navbar index.js like that and put the navbar here. And that one goes from the layout into navbar. And I see that it's a capital B, so I'm going to fix that up. Capital B there, and I'm going to put capital B there. And so then instead of doing components layout navbar like that, we'll do components shared navbar, and that would go right there. And for today notification, I'd do the same thing. So today notification index.js, and just do that. Today notification, and let's grab this file here, paste it inside of there, and update the reference to use that. So let's go components, shared, today notification. We've still got components, routing, private route. So this is one of those things. I would probably do a similar thing here and put it inside of shared. So I do private route here, index.js, and create a new file here, private route. Actually, I can just copy that, right? So if I go check it, it's in routing, and grab private route and paste it inside of there. And instead of using that, I can do components shared private route. So now I have this one, and that one there. I've got my components which are related to my routes over here. So everything is inside the components directory and everything else is kind of in a different place. So it does still seem to be working, which is pretty cool, pretty miraculous. Now let's have a look at the rest of these and where they all fit in and whether we can kind of get rid of them or something like that. So with login and register here inside of auth, we've obviously moved this one into login and register here. And now we have to do a check to make sure that these two files aren't being included anywhere else. So I think the best way to do it is just to type login here and see where it comes up. So you've got it in 27 different files. Let's kind of open this up. It's obviously not inside the cache, so we don't need to worry about that. We've got action, that doesn't count there, that doesn't count. Okay, so we've imported in our app, that's fine. That's fine, that's fine as well, that's fine, and that's fine, and that is fine, and that is fine as well. Let's check this one, that one there doesn't count. Okay, cool, so it does seem that there are no references to auth login, and I think we would find a similar thing for register. So if I just have a quick look with a case on the right one, let's just check that there. Okay, so my Visual Studio Code doesn't seem to be responding when I do a quick search. So then the other alternative I can do here is I can actually just go in and just completely delete the auth directory straight away. So now that I've done that, let's go back into terminal and just restart Parcel. If there are any references to the file, it will search for it and it will fail. So this is something else that's failed. It actually wasn't that particular issue. So let's go and fix this one here. So inside of components, shared navbar here, we're doing the ... actions thing, and this is what I said before, right? Like it just becomes really confusing and it becomes very difficult to put it in the right place, because truthfully the navbar has nothing to do with the actions or the location of the actions directory. There is just no real correlation there. So instead of doing this, something else like #root / actions here is a lot better. So now the other thing as well I've mentioned is separating imports. So I like to have three groups of imports. My top group I like to have as my global imports, obviously in alphabetical order here. I like to have my aliased imports as the second group. And for my third group, I like to have my relative imports. So anything that starts with / I count as a relative import. So now let's just save this one here. And we are going to go back into terminal and everything seems to be fine. So, okay, so we have another error here, which it's good that these things are coming up and we are fixing them. So inside of today notification, same problem here, but this one happens with regard to utils. The utils directory is inside of components, and that makes very little sense to me, right? Like I mentioned this before as well, is that these have nothing to do with being components. So what I would actually do straight away is I'd probably just consider putting all of these directly inside of a utils directory. But because we already have helpers here, which I created in a previous video, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy all of these and put them directly inside helpers for now. And then after that, we can kind of look at formatting it a little better later. So now for these three here, I'm going to do that. And then for / utils, instead I'm going to write #root / helpers like so. I'm going to save that and I'm going to see if anything else comes up and bothers me. And it does seem to be fine. So let's have a look, and my app is loading and it does show out here, which is really cool. So now let's keep going. We've got this setup, and private route doesn't include anything, which is why it didn't break, but we can fix the import order there as well. Now let's go through and let's see. So we've got pages, which contains these four. We are not using that anymore, so we can probably get rid of that. Layouts has a bunch more stuff, so I'd be less inclined to directly remove that, but we can look at kind of putting these in their right places as well. So let's have a look at date filter input and see where it's being used. So it does seem to be used inside of the src. We do seem to be using it in to-do filter. That seems to be the only place. So we're importing it here inside to-do filter, and to-do filter is inside the to-dos directory. And this one is included by, I think, home. Oh no, sorry. It's included by to-do list, which is here, which includes to-do filter. Okay, so yeah, it's just really messy. It's hard to tell exactly which component uses which is why I'm trying to kind of put them in the right place and refactor it that way. So maybe let's start from the top down. So we've got our component here. Let's just start with home. And home uses to-do list. Now let's have a look at where to-do list is being used. So if I do a search here for to-do list, and I search like that, and I close these files without opening them, and I'm actually just gonna go into here, and I'm going to actually create a new file at the very top, and I'm going to call it .vscode settings.json like so. And inside of this file here, we are going to put search.exclude, and we are going to exclude anything that goes inside of cache and anything inside of dist. So now if I do that, I should be able to search without those things coming up. There we go. So now, okay, so to-do list is only being imported inside of home.js here. So once again, this shows that to-do list is directly tied to the home component, or at least it is now, right? So what I would do here is I would actually grab to-do list and I would put it inside the home component. So I create a new file inside of here, to-do list / index.js. I do this, and then I'd save that, grab that, and paste it inside of there. So now, obviously that's going to break a whole bunch of imports. So instead of doing / to-dos to-do list, first let's do that. Let's separate these three into the three groups. So we've got global, aliased, and relative here. So inside of to-do list, we've got to-do item, to-do filter. Let's see where else we're using to-do item, right? So to-do item here, we are using, well, we've got one copy inside. So we're importing it here, and we're importing it there, and we're only really using it in to-do list. You see, so to-do item in this case is directly tied strictly to to-do list. Now, if it were tied to something else and we were using it in multiple places, then we can consider kind of putting it in a shared directory or something like that. But because we are only using it in one place, we don't have to put it outside somewhere else. So now we're going to do inside of here to-do item index.js, and we are going to open that file here. To-do item like so, and we are going to save this file. We are going to grab to-do item, and we are going to paste it inside of there. So now that we have those two, we go to to-do list, and to-do item should be able to be found. Now let's have a look at to-do filter, where it's being used. So to-do filter is only being used, once again, inside of to-do list. So now let's go right here, a new file here, to-do filter, index.js, and do to-do filter like so. save that and create a new file, well, I'm going to copy this file, going to put it inside of there as to do filter. So now we have a few more problems inside to do filter. So this utils thing, we can point straight to helpers / today, whatever that is. So helpers / today, like so. And we've got Redux form that goes, that's fine. So layouts date filter input comes from this one here. So what I would probably do in this situation is move that into a shared directory as well. So date filter input index.js. And we put it there. Now, you might be thinking that, because we have a single shared directory, that we'd have lots of stuff in there, that we wouldn't be able to really tell which one goes where, and that this becomes a problem. What I would have to say to that is that I've built many large-scale React apps in the past, and when I've been doing that, I've actually found that very little stuff goes inside the shared directory. Now, the reason there's actually quite a few things here, you'll notice number one is we have things like private route and things like date filter input. These things aren't exactly related specifically to this application. So normally I'd have them in a more global kind of shared node module, if you like, maybe either stored on Git or stored in a private NPM repository. So then what that would allow me to do is have those in a separate repo entirely to this one, or if I have them in a big mono repo, I can do that as well. And what that actually allows me to do is it has even more separation, and it also allows me to reuse these across apps if I'm, say, for example, developing two separate apps and I want to use the same input or the same private route. Especially for things like private route, because these kinds of things have very similar syntax across different applications. So that's the point I'd make here. It really doesn't become much of a problem. We have date filter input, which uses render date input. We've got that one there. Let's have a look and see if render date input is used anywhere else. So we've got render date input like so, and it is being used inside of date input and inside of date filter input. And that seems to be it, because this is the main file. That's the copy of this one. So it's included in two places. So let's see what it actually does here. We have a component. Okay, so that's the one that shows for the date input, and the date filter input is similar, but it is for filtering, I assume. So yeah, okay, so it does a filter based on the days that exist already, so the distinct days, and it kind of determines which ones are available. So then in this case, what I would do is I'd probably have date filter input and then render date input also inside of shared. So I'd grab render date input here, I'd do that, render date input index.js, and do render date input like so, and then I would paste it inside of there. And inside of date filter input here, so is that this one here? Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that this one, first of all, points to hash components shared date filter input, and remove that there. Oh, that won't work. Whoops, my bad. So root / helpers, root / components. Normally I'd set up hash components and hash helpers, which is why I'm used to doing that, but we can just use hash root here, so that's fine. And here, instead of render date input, I do hash root components shared like so. And then for utils, instead of utils get distinct days, I do hash root / helpers get distinct days like so. And then we have React day picker. So this one would go right there on top. And instead of // actions, I do hash root / actions as well. So now that we have that, let's just check our terminal. And I'm not sure if that should be broken. Maybe it should, because the to-do list here probably uses it. Yeah, okay, so a couple more things here to fix up. Okay, so got // layouts, progress bar. So utils, utils, utils. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do hash root / helpers, and that fixes those three there. And for // actions, I have no idea why that's at the top. But anyways, hash root / actions like so. I'd probably put these ones here, and this one, these two are my relative. Now for layouts, progress bar, that one goes here. I want to move that, but for now, in order to just get it working and not have too many moving parts, I'm going to do hash root / components layouts like so, and just maybe put that there for now. And let's check our terminal. It does seem to be working. Let's just confirm in Google Chrome. It seems to be broken there. Let's do another yarn start and see if that gives us any more errors. So it does. Okay, so now inside of to-do item, we've got // actions, hash root / actions again. Let's refresh the app. Still broken. So now try one more time. We have an error inside render date input. Okay, so render date input uses render error. All right, okay, I see that. But where else is render error being used, and why is it being run as a function? Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure on this one. I don't think that's a good idea. Let's check render error and see where else it's being used. So we're actually using, wow, we're using render error in quite a few places, and we're using it all as a function, even though that's probably not a great idea. Okay, so it does technically speed up performance, but the problem with using render error like this is that it prevents a lot of things from working. Like, for example, this wouldn't work with hooks. It would also cause a lot of other problems as you kind of move forward in React. They're moving away from this kind of pattern, and the performance difference is really negligible unless you really have like thousands upon thousands of components of the same component being rendered. So let's just keep this one as is. And for render date input, let's create a render error next to it like so. I do right click, new file, render error, and I do that, and let's save that. Let's grab render error and let's put it right there. Let's go to render date input and let's include it from hash root components shared, and let's separate those two like so. See if we get any more errors, anything else coming up that we need to fix. Of course we do. So now let's try again, and we get one more. So render date input, same problem. Let's check it again. This one here, same thing. So I'm gonna just copy that and do that. And well, it does seem to be fixed, but I don't think it is. Okay, cool. Let's try again. Well, it does seem to be working, so I'm not sure. Okay, so now it has come up and it is working. So, okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. Let's just see if there's anything else we can start to slowly remove from the components directory, specifically from layouts. Routing here should be good. If I just get rid of routing, it should still be working just fine, I think. So that seems to be fine. To-dos here, we've got to-do filter, form, item list. Okay, so filter, I'm pretty sure is just included from here. So we've got item, and that to-do form comes from add to-do and edit to-do here. So these two both use the to-do form. So now this is one example. So to-do form would probably belong inside the shared directory again. So then I'd probably do like to-do form here. Let's do index.js, to-do form like that. And let's copy this one and paste it inside of there. So now what I can do is inside of add to-do, let's fix up all of these anyways. So let's do that. And let's do hash root / actions. And let's do hash root components shared. And instead of utils, let's do hash root / helpers. Let's save that. Let's do the same thing in edit here. So we've got actions, go above there like that. And we've got hash root / actions. Hash root components shared to-do form. Okay, so now that should be fine, but we should have an error inside of to-do form because this one here, because it can't access the layouts. So what I'm gonna do is just really quickly, let's just check. So we don't have render text import nor render radio. Let's do hash root components layouts like that straight away, and just make sure that this is working. So let's check this, and it is broken. So let's try again. Well, it does seem to be working. So that seems to be fine. Okay, now let's remove the to-dos directory, this one here. Let's just get rid of that straight away. And we might actually be able to get rid of utils, and any errors that come up, we are going to fix along the way because we already copied the utils directory into helpers. Okay, so now we're getting the problems. This one comes from which place? Where does this error come from? So let's have a look and see where we're using utils today.js. Oh, sorry, util / today, because when we import it. Okay, so we've got date input, which uses it. Instead of doing that, let's fix up this. I really don't like having the imports all messed up like this. It makes it so hard to read. Like, I'm trying to figure out what kind of plugin this is, and where it's just so complicated. I don't like to read it properly. I guess I'm just not a big fan of reading, but yeah, maybe that's just me. So hash root helpers today like that. Let's check, see if anything else comes up. I should be good if it allows me. No, okay, so the error keeps disappearing, which I don't really like about Parcel. Get display to-dos. Okay, let's just check if anything refers to utils at all. So we've got this one here, which we can fix up. So we can just do hash root, once again, helpers, and move React date picker to the top like that, and go down here. Hash root / actions, hash root helpers like that. Let's save this real quick. And we've got this one here, same thing. So hash root helpers, do that. We've got utils, 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 and just command D, hash root helpers like that, and order these correctly. Save that real quick, and hopefully it is actually working this time. Nope, still broken. So let's try again. Okay, so it does seem to be working. Now, we've removed quite a lot of stuff here. So let's just recap really quickly. We've got shared, register, login, home, add to do, edit to do, about, and inside of home here, we've got to do list, which contains to do filter and to do item. So right now we still have layouts and we haven't finished refactoring this. So in the next video, we are going to look at, we're going to continue refactoring, removing this layouts directory and moving its components into the correct locations, whether they're being used one place in another component or whether they're being used elsewhere. But for now, that's all I've got for you. This has been Lucas with Better Coding Academy, and see you guys later.